Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Dr. Vicky from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center, and I'm going to be doing a look at the astrology for 2026. We're moving into a new vibration with 2026, and there's a lot of really big astrology, very changey. Things are changing. Things are changing. And in fact, this coming year, 2026, is a 10-1 year, and that is the Wheel of Fortune. It is all about change. So we won't be, for lack of changing circumstances, right? Um, so this is going to be, the majority of this is going to be astrological, and I'm going to go through the planets, see where they're at, what's going on with them, and get some just general themes for the year. Of course, there are big things happening as well, and a lot of very important things that would normally get more space on the headlines if it wasn't for the things that haven't ever happened. So let's get into it, just to keep, get you out of suspense. Alrighty. Okay. All right, everyone. Let's spin the wheel of fortune. So, as I said, 2026 is a 10-1 year. It is a 1 year, meaning that one is all about new stuff. It's a kind of try it on for size year with the one energy. It's like just because you plant the seed doesn't mean that you will have the time necessarily to nurture it. There'll be a lot of seeds planted, and the ones that are most, I would say, the ones that are most truly you will be the ones that grow the largest. And it's an opportunity to really um, we our destiny is our destiny, and we're going to have to learn how to enjoy it the whole way, right? Uh, all right, let's take a look and see. So, I'm going to do a little Kabbalah with this. If you're interested in learning about Kabbalah, I do have a class that I teach, and it's an introduction to the Kabbalah. And I'm also creating a video series that, with my knowledge of the Kabbalah and discussions about how I work with the Kabbalah. And that will be coming out probably sometime in January. I just have to figure out um, how to sell it. I'm not sure how I go about selling it, so I have to find out about that. But that is going to be available. Okay, so 10-1 on the Tree of Life is a path. It's a path on the Tree of Life, and it connects Hesed, the blue Sephiroth here, which is the Sephiroth of mercy, um, charity, faith, hope, and charity, I guess. Definitely charity. Um, and Netzach, which is the Sephiroth of Venus. Venus is, and the Sephiroth of victory. Venus is the feminine. Venus is relationship. Venus is values. And also, Venus is what is essential in our lives. And so, those are some of the themes, right? Um, and there's a sense of not being in control, um, or at least from the perspective of the ego or the personality. We're not quite in control in this sort of environment. And we do have options and we do have ways of working with this energy, but self-control is probably going to be the key to anything this year for us. Um, this is a path and a willingness to receive, a willingness to receive. So for those of us or those of you who typically say, I'm good, I don't need any help. No, my God, it's taken care of. You're going to be completely self-reliant. We're going to have to, I think, sort of bring our forces together and be willing to receive help and be willing to ask for help. And then, of course, being willing to give help, right? So it's a lot of give and take energy with this. And this is the Wheel of Fortune card from the Lightseers deck. I just love that deck. If I know where the deck, the illustration is from, I do mention it, um, or what deck it's from. So this conciliating intelligence, this path between the Sephiroth of Jupiter and the Sephiroth of Venus is called the conciliating intelligence. It says the wheel of fortune turns. It is the wheel of karma, chance, return, and consciousness. The wheel tells of the endless rotation of night and day, the earth and skies, the seasons, the years, and the rise and fall of humanity through endless cycling of birth, fortune, and death. So, in a way, we are having a rebirth moment with this energy, right? We let go in 2025. That was about letting go of that which no longer serves us. It was about healing, it was about sharing your wisdom. It was about letting go and yet having a very vivid vision for the future. Kind of knowing what we want because now we move into this year and we have to plant those seeds. The key to this energy is to remain centered in the wheel while observing the ups and downs of life. And so this really is about the self. It is a 1 year. Um, and know thyself, right? Know thyself, and where do you stand, and and what matters, perhaps, and what doesn't no longer matters. Um, this is called the great equalizer, as the mighty fall and the meek rise. The only constant in this energy is change, because that's what this energy is all about. So this is just a quick look at some of the things that are going to be happening in 2026. And it's mainly a chart about um, if there's a sign change coming, or is a planet going to change signs, and where pretty much is there a retrograde cycle for a planet and where that retrograde is happening. So if we look here, we have both Neptune and Saturn this in 2026 moving into Aries again, but this time they're not leaving Aries. They're not going, well, they're leaving Aries, but they're not going back to Pisces, right? Saturn has about a 29-year orbit, so we're not going to see Saturn back in that Pisces energy for another 20, 28 years or so, right? And Neptune has a 165-year cycle. So it's been in Pisces for 14 years. It's going to be back in Pisces in about 150, 151 years. So not our problem, not our circus, right? Um, but we have Neptune in Aries, and Aries is the energy of the I am. It is the I am, and Neptune is our imagination. It's also there's also a delusionary quality to Neptune. We could easily like delude ourselves, but we also have the power of the oneness of all things, the creative spark, as creative as it gets, from where all things um, rise up, right? In that Aries energy. So these two planets will be moving from water to fire and stay in fire for 2026. Chiron actually does also change signs temporarily. It's in 2026. Chiron dips into Taurus for about 3 months, and then goes back into Aries, finishes up what it needs to finish up, and then goes into Taurus. I think where it stays. Um, Not quite as long as Aries, but for a while, a number of years. Okay. Um, Uranus, another planet that's changing signs. As we start 2026, Uranus is in Taurus. It is going to move into Gemini, where it did visit last year for a moment and then came out. It's going to be there for about 6, 7 years, about 7 years. Uranus spends in a sign. So it's going to be there for a long time. And Uranus is shock and awe and Gemini's an air sign, it's information. And so, it could be illuminating information, but it's chaos as well, information that can create chaos. So there's a lot of things are changing. The whole world is shifting. The whole power structure is shifting of the world, the whole, um, even geological. And then also energetically and consciously, like we're consciously waking up to something. And I think we've been agreeing on a certain story for a long time, and we look at it and we're like, what the hell is this story about? This isn't the kind of ending I was hoping for, right? So now we have to change the story. And part of that story with this new consciousness that's coming in is to know what part you're going to play in that. And how do you know that? You follow your heart. You follow your heart. Um, we have Jupiter changing signs. Jupiter spends the first half of 2026 in Cancer, where it's exalted. But of course, Jupiter expands everything, so it's exalted, but a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions. And Cancer is very self-protective energy, so there's a lot of self-protection getting, people going into their shell. We wonder how people are dealing with this. They're not. They can't. They're not able. But eventually, we will come out of our shell. And certainly, when Jupiter goes into Leo, that's going to happen. The nodes of the moon change signs. We have been in a nodal cycle of the North Node in Pisces, watery Pisces, right? And then we're Aquarius moving into Aquarius. I have some ideas about that. We have 3 Mercury retrograde cycles this year. They're all in water, every single one of them. I have them listed. I'll show you in a little later slide, but that means there's going to be a lot of emotional thinking, a lot of feeling, a lot of emotions. Um, there's going to be a lot of flooding because I think the as I understand it, the weather does reflect our emotions. And when you're sad, you cry. And when the world is sad and feeling bad and needing to express themselves, it will express itself in water. Okay, so Venus has a retrograde cycle. It's towards the end of the year. It starts in Scorpio, retrograding back into Libra, and then going right through. Interestingly, that both Libra and Scorpio are the 2 archetypes in astrology that deal with relationships. So this is a real deep dive into Venus is like a real review of what's really important. Like, what do you really love? Who do you really love? What do you really love? That kind of thing. It's Venus, right? What is attracting you to something or to someone? All of that in review. And of course, we're in a 1 year, so it's about us. So we're sort of probably going around and reviewing all our relationships, how they serve us, how they don't. And even not just to people, but to ideas, we're in relationship to everything. We're in relationship to everything. And there are no Mars retrogrades. And so things are going to move very quickly in 2026 because Mars is just right through the zodiac and activating a lot of 2 year planetary cycles this year that will come to fruition in 2027, uh, where we'll see what was planted, and then from 27 to 28, it's putting that information out into the world and seeing how the world sort of responds to it. So yeah, it's a really this is a really, really potent year. Okay, so let's just go over a couple of things. On the 26th of January, Neptune ingresses into Aries, right? I talked about that. On the 13th of February, Saturn ingresses into Aries. This is all the changes here. Um, on April 25th, we have Uranus ingressing into Gemini and staying there. So for those Tauruses out there, Uranus is out of your sign. It's going to feel different, but it's going to feel, you might even feel more grounded than you ever did before because now you know what's at the roots of something. On the 19th of June, we have Chiron entering Taurus. On the 26th of July, the nodes of the moon ingress into Aquarius, Leo. North node in Aquarius, South node in Leo. We have Mercury retrograde in water this year, February 26th to March 20th, from the 23rd degree to the 9th degree of Pisces. So if you know your degrees, you can see if you have any planets at this point. June 29th to July 23rd, so most of July, Mercury will be retrograde from 27 degrees of Cancer to 17 degrees of Cancer. And then October 24th to November 13th. So this is the period of the United States midterm elections, right? The midterm elections are happening here. We have Mercury retrograde from 21 degrees to 6 degrees of Scorpio. You know, and Scorpio is very bottom line. So I think that the elections is going to be very much bottom line, people at the bottom line saying this is it. This is where the line is. It's going to be an interesting time. As I said, there are no Mars retrogrades in 2020. Oops, excuse me, I went ahead. I jumped ahead. But there is a Venus retrograde in 2026. It starts October 3rd at 9 degrees of Scorpio and goes to November 13th at to 23 degrees of Libra. And then, of course, it will go direct and have to go over those points. So even though the retrograde cycle is 40 days, we have the time before and the time after that also has an influence. But I'll talk about that as it happens during the year. So let's talk about Pluto. Pluto in 2026. Pluto will be in Aquarius exclusively, starting the year at 3 degrees of Aquarius. So, yes, Pluto will be in Aquarius exclusively for, say, about another 17 years. So, but yeah, so Pluto in Aquarius. It starts at 3 Aquarius. Interestingly enough, the Sabian symbol for that is a deserter from the Navy. Refusal to accept the unacceptable. This is interesting. It says certain of society's constraints and requirements are simply inappropriate for us, and we cannot and must not comply. Refusing to comply with inappropriate authority. We also, so Pluto moves forward from 3, and on May 6th, 2026, at 6 degrees of Aquarius, Pluto will station retrograde. That particular day is a 21-3 day. This is Saturn energy, and it's the energy of manifestation. In fact, on the Tree of Life, it's the path between the moon and the earth, and between the holder of all images and manifested reality. So this is a natural like place for manifestation. So something is definitely manifesting on this Pluto retrograde in May. And it says 6 degrees of Aquarius, performer in a mystery play. Our roles as agencies of higher forces. Not only do we live out our human lives in simple workaday ways, we also serve the function of bringing higher mysteries to Earth, channeling ancient archetypes in your own unique fashion. And so many of us who watch these kind of videos have a sense of being connected to something bigger, something larger, something that other people aren't necessarily aware of. And this is the year to put it out there, to plant the seed, to plant the seed. Then Pluto stations direct after going retrograde for a couple of months on October 15th at 4 degrees of Aquarius, a Hindu healer. We'll look at that we'll see that degree over and over again this year, 4 degrees of Aquarius. So what we see here is that Pluto will move from 3 to 6 degrees, so in Aquarius, so about 3 degrees a year, right? It's sort of slowing down because now Pluto is spending more time in a sign. It spent 16 years in Capricorn and in, I think it was 14, maybe something like that. And I could be wrong about that in Sag, and then only 11 years in Scorpio. So as the amount of time that a sign is spending in a sign, Pluto spending in a sign, we go through the degrees slower. And so 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the degrees that we're moving through. And so if you want, as your own self-study, check out the Sabian symbols for those degrees. See how it applies to maybe your life or just the life of the collective. All right. Next on the list is Neptune. Neptune in 2026. We start the year at 30 degrees of Pisces, moving direct. Mercury went direct at the end of, um, was it? It went direct in December. See, the end of November or December. I should remember that. It's hard to keep it all straight in your head. Um, it ingresses back into Aries on the 26th of January, 2026. Um, so it's back in Aries, and in Aries it will stay. On July 7th, it stations retrograde at 5 degrees of Aries. The Sabian symbol for 5 degrees of Aries, awareness of higher dimensions. You're going to see this a lot too. This theme of higher dimensions, being aware, opening up, knowing that you're here to do that. A lot of the symbols were pointing in that direction. You can't make this stuff up. It's been out there for years. It's like there's been a codex out there, and we've had to figure out how to connect the dots in order to get a sense of how best to utilize our abilities, what we know, to foster a new world, a new earth. We're sort of like midwives to the new earth. Pretty exciting. So, reaching up towards new dimensions of being. Wow, that's cool. Finding the skills, loyalties, and values to rise to a higher level of consciousness. Yes, it's all about us. It's all about you. It's all about us. Because the better you are, the better us we all can be. Better we can be. Hmm? Stations direct at 2 degrees of Aries on September 12th. That's 1212 portal. Adjustment to feedback. 2 degrees of Aries. The Sabian symbol is a comedian faces an audience or entertains an audience. And it's about, laughing about ourselves, an ability to laugh at yourself, to see the human condition, to understand it, right? That's why laughter is so healing. That's why when things are really, really bad, people are laughing really, really loud. It's a way to express your feelings without crying, which we also do a lot of. But yeah, laughter is a little bit more fun. Okay. Um, So because being able to see ourselves objectively through another's viewpoint. And Neptune travels from 30 degrees of Pisces to 5 degrees of Aries in the year 2026. If you have planets at those points, this is a consideration. What's it going to mean as Neptune goes over, or trines or squares, depending on, where your planets are, as far as if you have planets even in those degrees. Those are the degrees that are going to be activated through Neptune. So anybody who has anything at 30, any planet at 30 degrees to 5 degrees of Aries is going to have, well, 30 degrees of the zodiac to 5 degrees of the zodiac is going to be influenced by this. It just depends on what planets and what signs you have there. Okay. I think you understand what I'm saying. I don't want to make it too complex. Uranus in 2026. Uranus. Uranus starts the year at 28 degrees of Taurus retrograde. Retrograde or direct? Yeah, retrograde stations in February. Right. Okay. Again, we have a year where Uranus is in both Taurus and Gemini, but much more time spent, I believe, in Gemini. Much more time. Well, not that much more, but and then next year just in Gemini, and then that next year, the next year, and the next year. So we got a lot of Gemini, Uranus Gemini energy, and that's all about information. It's all about like all kinds of information coming at us. And so there's going to be, I think there's going to be so much information out there that we're going to start to trust our inner selves and our inner voice more, because it's not confusing. And so we need to like practice that. What is that called? Mindfulness. Like be in your mind. Don't be in the next task, Be in the moment that you're doing. That's the value of having like a craft. Because when you're doing something, detail work or craft work or something, you have to concentrate on what you're doing, that creative process. So we start the year at 28 of Taurus, stationing direct on February 3rd at 28 degrees of Taurus. Doesn't really move very much. Um, a woman past her change of life experiences a new love. Perpetual new beginnings. I like to hear that because I'm getting older. I mean, not that I don't need a new love or new romance, but I like the idea of the perpetual new beginnings. Limits of the physical body need not stop us from staying alive to new possibilities and opportunities. Maturity in relationships. It enters Gemini on April 24th, 2026. And the first degree of Gemini is discovering new dimensions. Another dimensional thing, right? Says the unconscious mind holds as many secrets as the ocean depths. Hmm? Stationing retrograde on October 10th at 6 degrees of Gemini, drilling for oil, zealous appetite, an insatiable questing for information and knowledge takes us to an emotional process and uncovering some dark secrets. So those dark secrets could be our own dark secrets as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be somebody in the outer world, like, a president or something, but it can just be our dark secrets, right? Humanity's dark secrets. It's a lot of, but once it's seen, once it's out of the dark and we know about it, it can be released into the light. It can be released into the light. Uranus travels in 2026 from 28 degrees of Taurus to 6 degrees of Gemini. Saturn in 2026. Oh, another year of Saturn in Pisces and then Aries, but not very much. Not in Pisces for very long. It starts the year at 27 degrees of Pisces and ingresses into Aries on February 13th. Stationing retrograde on July 26th when it has already reached 15 degrees of Aries, so it's moving fast. From 0 to 15 in what, 3 months? February, March, April, May, June, July, 6 months. Still seems fast to me. Maybe it's not. Stationing retrograde stationing direct, so it goes retrograde 15 degrees. It stations retrograde at 15 degrees in July. In December 10th, it stations direct again at 8 degrees of Aries, so it's moved back. I have to do math, 7 degrees, and ends the year at 9 degrees of Aries. Of course, that's only a couple of weeks later. Um, so really, um, for Saturn, it runs from 27 degrees of Pisces to 15 degrees of Aries this year. So again, if you have things in those degrees, especially if it's in Pisces and Aries, it's affected because you're getting the conjunction, which is the most powerful. But if you have planets in those degrees in your chart, it's going to be affected in some way. Jupiter in 2026. Jupiter starts the year at 22 Cancer, moving retrograde. It'll move all the way back to 16 degrees of Cancer, and on March 10th, 2026, it stations direct. 16 degrees of Cancer, a profound self-understanding. Again, indicating that we need to understand who we are. We need to learn how to understand, acknowledge, and willingly embrace all various parts of our nature. There's a part of us, I think, that really has to come to terms with the fact that in any given situation, with the circumstances as they are, we could do the same thing as somebody else does. Kind of judge not lest you be judged energy. And come to understand that, and come to be, in a way, more accepting of foibles and problems and shortcomings, perhaps. Be more loving and be more open to improving upon yourself. Self-improvement is very much a theme for 2026. Um, Embracing all parts of our nature. It will ingress into Leo, right? That's moving forward through Cancer, exits Cancer on the 30th of June, enters Leo uh, in 2026. And the first degree of Leo, managing the fiery life force. It's also called a case of apoplexy if you look at Dane Rudger's definition. But it's about all this fiery energy coming to the head, right? And Leo is the sign of creativity, and Jupiter is the sign of expansion. So the ability of the expansion of the creative energy come the second half of um, the year is pretty intense, pretty intense. It will station retrograde on December 13th at 28 degrees of Leo to focus upon opportunity, focusing upon opportunity. So we're sort of ending the year, and then we'll have to review as we start 2027, which is an 11 year, which is about like balancing the scales, right? Deciding, making decisions. Yes, I can put my energy in this. No, I can't put my energy in this, right? Balancing the scales. But that's 2027. We're talking about 2026. But we can see how it would flow into that energy, the natural energy of that. And then I believe by that time, Jupiter is going to be in Virgo. And so all that Virgoan discernment comes in, right? So we have a lot of work ahead of us. It's not all about having to just watch things go down the river like 2025 was, but we actually can actively initiate in 2026 something that was um, not as easy in 2025 because it wasn't the energy for most people. Some people were in 1 years, personal 1 years, um, or personal one lines, or something got activated for them and they could, but not everybody could. There, that's still a little ways down the river, so to speak. All right. Mars. Now this is going to be very, I'm going to put a little more time into Mars because I think it's important to focus on Mars. Why? Because we have Saturn, the planet of reality, and Neptune, the planet of imagination, conjoining for maybe the second time in recorded history, or maybe the first time in recorded history at the first degree of Aries, and Aries is Mars ruled. So what Mars is doing in 2026 is very important. And again, I said it's starting these cycles that are going to come to fruition in 2028. And of course, 2028 here in the United States is the next presidential election. So Mars has no retrogrades in 2026, starting the year at 7 degrees of Aquarius. So off, off the, what is that, when people race, like, and the gun goes off, very Aries symbology, and you push off the starting. This is it. We start at 7 degrees of Aries. A child born out of an egg, freedom from old ways and standards. What a perfect way for Pluto to start. I mean, for Mars to start the year 2026. There are synodic cycles starting, and one coming to an important point, and we'll look at those. So we'll start with the inner planets. Venus will make a conjunction to Mars at 19 degrees of Capricorn. This is a 2-year cycle, Venus, and Mars. And 19 degrees of Capricorn, a 5-year-old child carrying a bag filled with groceries, premature responsibilities, premature responsibilities. So this is a challenging energy for Venus and Mars. We're taking on maybe more than we're capable of. However, that's what creates true, it's the test that we pass that indicates what we master. So the harder things are, the better we are at uh, creating what we need. Um, the Sun will conjoin Mars on January 9th at 20 degrees of Capricorn, a hidden choir singing, saying, put aside when we put aside the ego, we find that the greater joy comes from shared celebration of our spiritual nature. So this is sort of like getting together with your tribe, guys. Getting together with your tribe. That's the request that the Sun and Mars are starting their cycle with. And the day that that cycle starts is a judgment day. It's judgment day, guys. The 20 over 2 is the judgment card in the tarot, the awakened soul card. So people are waking up, and it's only January. Um, Now, Mars has 3 conjunctions with Mercury. The first one is happening in January 18th at 27 degrees of Capricorn, a pilgrim's journey. If we are sincere seekers, we must for a time move away from our busy lives and struggle upwards to seek peace, retreat, and pilgrimage. So this is spiritual retreat energy. Spiritual retreat energy on 27 degrees of Capricorn. That's right around the Pluto of the United States Sibley chart. And Pluto in a chart symbolizes the soul. So soul searching, America, soul searching. On March 15th, we have another conjunction at 5th, that's the Ides of March, by the way, at 11 of Pisces, taking steps to improve oneself. I told you this was a year of self-improvement. If you can do one thing for yourself this year that is out of the norm, go to a spa, go on a trip with your girlfriends, have a reading, right? Um, whatever's going to help you understand yourself better, the better it is. The majority seek comfort and pleasure, while the seeker never stops moving forward. It's true. Dedication to self-improvement above all things. And then on the 20th of April, 2026, that's always a fiery day, the 19th to 20th. A lot of things happened up here in New England with the war. the Revolutionary War, but also a lot of other things have happened on that day around shooting, really. 9 degrees of Pisces. Not that that's going to happen this year for that, but that's the energy of that time of year. It's the Aries energy, so things are sharp. 9 degrees of Pisces, spur to attainment, spur to attainment. So the sharp things are going to get us moving, going to get us moving, being determined to succeed, being determined to succeed. So, and again, Mars doesn't have a retrograde cycle, so it's hitting these planets, activating with that initiatory Mars energy, which is the energy of Aries, which is the energy of the conjunction, which is the energy of the one. Mars Jupiter. Now, this is the only cycle that is not starting this year. It's actually halfway through the cycle, meaning that it's at its opposition phase. This synodic cycle is the waning phase, beginning with the Mars Jupiter opposition, which occurs right at the beginning of the year, January 10th. Notice the vibration here, the 21-3. This is a manifestation. So the Mars Jupiter cycle started last year and it is coming to fruition right at the beginning of 2026. Something is manifesting. It's happening at 21 and 21 degrees of Cancer Capricorn, Mars at 21 of Capricorn, a relay grace, group cooperation, opposing Jupiter at 21 degrees of Cancer, a prima donna singing. Being aware of the price of success, despite the huge social costs of our attainments, they almost never produce the happiness we yearn for. So this, to me, looks like a opposition between perhaps the king and the people. That's all I'm going to say about that. So there's an awareness and something manifests out of that. When we have Mars Saturn synodic cycle begins with the conjunction on April 19th. Remember I said April 19th, 20th. We have a conjunction of Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn are both what would be traditionally called or classically called malefics. They're hard to work with. Mars is this is military stuff. Mars Saturn is military stuff. The synodic cycle begins with that conjunction. However, the vibration of that day is a master number, 33-6, master of compassion. This is the Christ consciousness, guys. This is the Christ consciousness. So we might say Mars Saturn conjunction. Oh, but it's the birth of the Christ consciousness. At 9 degrees of Aries, that's going to be a terrible, right? Aries, boom, bitch, a crystal gazer. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. The symbol, wonderful. Focusing the subtle mind, awakening the non-grasping, all-seeing, subtle aspects of the mind. This is about opening up your psychic senses, right? There's all this information, all this Uranus in Gemini that's coming, all this information that's coming is downloads, and we can attune ourselves to that, but you do have to like really take care of yourself so you don't blow your mind out, right? That whole idea of getting your mind blown. um Sensitive visionary concentration of attention, the vision of the future, vision. It's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be alive. Mars Uranus also starts a synodic cycle, and this one, Lord Jesus, starts on July 4th. July 4th, the day of the American 250 years, American country of America, the USA, the United States of America, with Uranus conjoining on the birthday. F4 of Gemini. Miss Holly and mistletoe, primitive roots. I think this is very important. The way forward has to do with our ability to connect with our indigenous roots. Primitive roots, pagan practices of spirituality resonate with very deep race memories and bind us to the source of all knowledge. Talk about roots. Talk about 7 years of Uranus and Taurus shaking us to our very roots, showing us how deep those roots go, because we're still here. We're still here. Accessing primitive wisdom. Powerful. Mars Neptune synod begins April 13th, 2026 at 3 degrees of Aries. So this is Mars, the energy of Mars, um, taking its marching orders from Neptune, which is a spiritualized energy, right? This is the energy of spirit putting itself out into manifestation. Mars wants to manifest, wants to be something, wants to go somewhere, right? 3 degrees of Aries, awakening to a higher level. All the Sabian symbols don't actually say these things, but these all do. The awesome power of life itself as we identify the most spiritual dimension of being. That's Neptune. Seeing oneself in the context of being with others. That's Neptune. Unity consciousness. Unity consciousness. Mars Pluto starts their synodic cycle. Oh, I don't have the date. Sorry, guys. At 4 degrees of Aquarius, a Hindu healer. It is in January. It's January. Um, I'll tell you right now. Is it January? Is it February? Maybe it's February. No, it's January. I'm sorry. January 27th. January 27th, 2026. So right in January. So January this year is a lot of like things getting planted. We start with a new full moon that's right on the United States sun here in America. Opposition, and Mars is in Capricorn with the sun. So a lot of emotional energy and a sense of um, like coming face to face. The Hindu healer, spiritual focus, healing yourself of imbalances. That's what Pluto, the soul, is asking Mars to bring us to. A spiritual focus so we can heal our imbalances. I'm telling you, we could either create a heaven or a hell at this point. And the question is, what do you prefer to create? Venus in 2026 enters at 10 of Capricorn. She conjoins the Sun on January 6th, 2026, that at 17 degrees of Capricorn. This is the start of a Venus star cycle. Venus is direct, so we're talking about an evening star. So Venus goes from being morning star to evening star at this point. Now, Venus is so close to the sun that you don't see Venus, but she's still going through she's still in the underworld and she comes finally up, right? 17 degrees of Capricorn is interesting. The Sabian symbol, a repressed woman finds psychological release in nudism. This is about not caring what other people think and being yourself. That's it. Be yourself. Be your Venus. Be your Venus. What's your Venus in? My Venus is in Taurus. Very nuts and bolts, basic, sensual, Taurus, whatever, wherever your Venus is. Um, Freeing yourself from unhealthy prohibitions. The releasing of the feminine. And in Capricorn, the feminine boss, the manager. She knows how to do it, right? So, um, so start of a Venus evening star in Capricorn. She enters Aquarius on January 17th, Pisces on February 10th. She's in Pisces until March 6th. She's exalted in Pisces, so she's especially powerful in Pisces. It's always a nice time when Venus is in Pisces, I think. Enters Aries, the sign of the warrior, on March 6th. She's on the march until March 30th, when she enters into Taurus, another sign that she rules. So enters Taurus on March 3rd until April 24th. When Venus is in Taurus, our values are very pragmatic. Our values are about food and shelter and the essentials of life, our basic needs, and what we really value, what's truly important to us. Venus, in her less, perhaps, in her more, in a way, beastly nature than her more socially acceptable nature in Libra or her divine nature in Pisces. She enters Gemini on the 24th. Of course, then that the value goes to communication, curiosity, gathering information. It's what Venus loves to do in Gemini. Entering Cancer on May 18th. Venus in Cancer loves its family, loves a sense of security, loves some tea and sympathy, right? Entering Leo on June 13th. Of course, Venus in Leo always has good hair. But, really sort of Venus is now putting her best self forward. Her leadership quality comes out in Leo. Her flair for the dramatic comes out in Leo. Entering Virgo on July 9th, a little bit more work day, roll up your sleeves kind of Venus, and enters Libra on August 6th. Um, Entering Scorpio on September 10th. And so Venus now is slowing down because she's ready to station retrograde. She stations retrograde on October 3rd in 9 degrees of Scorpio. So she enters Scorpio on the 10th and starts to move very, very slowly through Scorpio to the point where she stations retrograde at 9 degrees of Scorpio. Venus will conjunct the Sun at 1 degree of Scorpio on October 23rd. This is the second Venus star point. Only this time, it's at 1 degree of Scorpio, Sabian symbol, a sightseeing bus. We move away from our beloved past, motivated by curiosity for greater experience. This is Venus in the heart of the Sun and the start of a new Venus star point cycle. This will be Venus morning star in Scorpio. Last morning star was in Aries, powerful, the warrior. Now it's in Scorpio. It's another warrior energy, but Venus in Scorpio is willing to take you out if you hurt somebody they love. So this is a serious Venus. Re-enters Libra now, it's moving backwards. Re-enters Libra on October 25th. Stations direct on November 13th when it's at 23 degrees of Libra, and the Sabian symbol is a rooster, heralding the coming light. So that journey, that retrograde journey through Scorpio and then Libra and then back into Scorpio and out, is a real deep dive into how we relate to one another. And then, of course, soon thereafter, we move into an 11 universal year. So a lot of what we glean from this Venus retrograde cycle is going to help us make decisions about what stays and what goes in 2027. All right. Just a couple more things. I know this is long. Mercury 2026, 3 Mercury retrograde cycles, all in water. The first one, as I said, February 26th at 23 of Pisces, moving all the way back to, let's see. Oh dear, I have a problem here. This should be 10 degrees. Okay, this is all gibberish. This should be, I think it's 9 degrees of Pisces. Venus, Mercury is retrograde for 22 days in Pisces. Then we have the one in Cancer at 27, all the way back to 17. That goes from June 29th to July 23rd. So if you have a birthday in those in that time period, you have a Venus, you have a Mercury retrograde this year. It's retrograde for 24 days in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. And then the last one will be Mercury in Scorpio for 20 days, going from the 21st degree of Scorpio to the 6th degree of Scorpio. October 24th to November 13th, that is the midterms in the middle of that. Retrograde for 20 days. Mercury spends approximately 171 days in water signs in 2026. So you need to appeal to people's feelings. You need to appeal to people's feelings because there'll be a lot of them. Eclipses. There's always two eclipse seasons. We have a North Node eclipse season. That's when the sun is by the North Node, and the South Node eclipse season when the sun is by the South Node. The North Node eclipse season starts on February 17th, 2026, which is a Three of Wands day, waiting for your ship to come in, with an annular solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aquarius. Now, this North Node eclipse is happening in February, but remember we have the nodes shifting in the end of July, and the nodes will be on this eclipse point. So big changes February to July. Okay. A butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Emerging from a chrysalis, ready to fly. March 3rd, we have the total lunar eclipse at 13 degrees of Virgo. This is the second of the eclipse seasons, or the second eclipse of the eclipse season. A powerful statesman overcomes a state of political hysteria. The vibration for that day is a 16-7. It's the Tower card. A powerful statement overcomes a state of political hysteria. We'll see who that person is, eh? South Node eclipses occur beginning August 12th, 2026. That day vibrates to the Four of Wands in the tarot, right? Celebration. A total solar eclipse at 21 degrees of Leo. An intoxicated chicken. We must open to secret knowledge at the right time and in the right way. This is about getting involved in more like esoteric psychic stuff, a little bit too much too soon, and causing us to feel a little dizzy, And then August 28th, the second half of this, we have a partial lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Pisces, a church bazaar. It says money can be managed without the poison of greed, interacting with others with integrity and a lightness of being. And so again, even these symbols indicate an awakening of sorts, an opening up to a new life as we come into a new world, a new world. And then the nodal shift. And this is the chart for the nodal shift. I believe it's happening on the 26th. And here we can see the North Node is now in Aquarius, moving out of Pisces into Aquarius. The nodes always move backwards. They move backwards in the sign. They start at 30 and they move to 0. And so now we have the North Node and so the focus forward is Aquarius. Now I have a picture of the circulatory system here because in the body, the heart and the peripheral circle and the circulatory system is the two parts of the body that are ruled by Leo, the heart, and Aquarius, circulatory system. So what we're being asked to do is we're being asked to move and attend to this North Node is is ruled by Saturn and Neptune. Not Saturn, Neptune, Saturn and Uranus, right? North, the Aquarius is modern ruler is Uranus. Its classical ruler is Saturn. So Saturn and Uranus in charge. Saturn and Uranus now in the sky are in a relationship where Saturn is structure um, is surrendering to the technology or the more scientific part. So it's sort of like a whole restructuring of how we're going to work in a society in which computers are taking over a lot of tasks, right? That we're doing. So in a way, we are moving away from um, being cogs in the machine. And so you'll say, well, then I won't have a job. Well, um, we also look at the South Node being in Leo, which is the heart. And so it's really about fostering creativity and accessing creativity. The South Node, as it moves through Leo, is the South Node is a repository of the past, but also talents and abilities, and creativity. And of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius now, but Pluto evolves through its polarity point, and its polarity point is Leo. And so the heart of this is working on that which connects us, creating systems and things that will last the test of time, and networks and connections, while keeping our creative core, right? About working from a place of love. The interesting thing about the day that the nodes shift, we have Pluto making a pretty tight opposition to the sun and to Jupiter. This is part of their synodic cycle. The sun Saturn cycle. I mean Jupiter. I'm sorry. The Sun Pluto cycle started in January in a conjunction 4 degrees of uh, Aquarius, a Hindu healer, healing yourself of imbalances, right? At the time that this happened. So it's important that we get our shit together, quite frankly. Figure out who we are, figure out what we love, figure out what we're good at, and do it. Be our best selves. Be our best selves and help those who need help. We'll help each other. And we're going to build this new world um, in the best way that we can. In the best way that we can. So it's an exciting time to be alive. The ruler of the North Node is now Saturn and Uranus, and the ruler of the South Node is the Sun. The Sun, and of course, the Sun moving through uh, the South Node moving through Leo is asking us to let go of ego. Let go of ego, and this South Node is going to go over the president's DJT's Mars eventually. Not right away because it'll take a little while, but and Mars is, his that angry Mars in Leo, but it's also life force. So yeah. So we will see. We will see. We will see. Okay, let me stop the share. I know this was long. Apologies for the length, but I think it was really vitally important information to get out. So as I said, I'm going to be starting my second Kabbalah class for my students who've taken the first class. That's going to start on the 8th of January. You can still become part of that if you've taken a class with me, or if you understand the Kabbalah um, and you want to further your studies in the way that I work with it. So that's happening on the 8th. It's a 6-week class, 6 consecutive Thursday evenings, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. It all gets recorded, so if you can't make every class, you still get every class. Um, And I'm going to be starting a beginner's astrology that's going to be happening in February, and also probably a towards the end of February, maybe a special topic astrology class. If you would like to be a member of my channel, I am planning on doing my Kabbalah lessons on. If you're subscribed, um, at the higher level, there's two levels. You can be part of the classes for Kabbalah. If you're at the lower level, you'll get all the uh, taroscopes and all that stuff early, and you do get some special things that everybody gets it, but the lower level gets that as well. It's mostly to help support my work, but you do get a lot, and you have access to all my old videos. So you can actually do a self-study just by watching old videos of how I work with the Kabbalah. So all of that my whole library of that is available for every level, but for the special classes, it will be the higher level, which is stargazers, I think. I don't know. I should know. I shouldn't name them so similarly, and I should write it down so I can remember. All right, guys, thanks so much. 2025 has been quite a ride. I don't think I could have gotten through without you guys, and hopefully you feel the same way about me. Remember, Mystic Sisters, Saturday night, 7 Eastern, 6 Central. We're going to start the year. That's the fourth, I believe. Third or the fourth? The fourth, I think. It's January 4th is Saturday. um, on Ona's channel, and then we go every other channel. I mean, every other week on our channels. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. Wonderful spending this year with you, and I look forward to another fruitful, fulfilling, and interesting 2026. Take care, everyone. Namaste.